All right, I just started the recording. Again, there's an attendance form in the chat, so please fill that out. And so, does anyone want to go over anything for the CS212 midterm? Again, this is for Professor Lord's class. You could also like type in chat too if you want, or you could, just unmute and we could go over some problems. No specific problems. All right. Um, Seeing no specific problems from one student. Again, this is your time. If you have anything you want to talk about, um, feel free. I do have like a review sheet we can use for this review session if you all would be interested in doing that. Is that fine with you all? Yeah, okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to, I guess, screen share and go over some problems. All right, so hopefully you all can see this. Are you all able to view this? I guess doc. It's kind of a long doc, but it has some good stuff. So, um, from when I took Professor Lord's class, I'm not gonna lie, his final was pretty much all multiple choice. I'm assuming he hasn't changed it, but please don't quote me on that. Um, Yeah, this thought contains quite a few problems. So I guess we could start with the first question, if you're all good to go on that front. Pretty sure he said all 40 multiple choice questions. It's all multiple choice. Okay. Yeah, so again, I don't think the actual type of question is going to change. Maybe there's a little bit of a difference in like the wording of questions, but it should all be multiple choice. Okay. So let's begin. Oh, and someone asked, do you know what's passing risk class? I know 70 is a C, but I saw somewhere 55 is a C. Um, I don't think I could answer your question on that. Um, yeah, I know us. I'm not entirely sure, but um, yeah. Okay. Also, this isn't an official doc, but I guess we could still use some of the questions. So let's start. Number one, array and linked lists are examples of classes. So we have a few choices here. We have a model view controller architecture. So that's not MVC. Array and linked lists are um, they're not like a tree map. They all kind of contain data and like store data, but arrays and linked lists, they're not tree maps. Um, Also, they're not part of JavaX.swing, but they are collections. And so for, I guess, number one would be D. Okay. And for number two, also, can you please explain each of the options for number one? Yeah, sure, we could do that. So for number one, we have a model view controller architecture. So view controller, really, it's just back in your PowerPoint slides, it's just a way of like handling data, like kind of changing data and like having it show up in like a GUI. I'm sure you guys went over what like GUIs were. A class tree map. So tree maps are like a type of like data structure, just like arrays and linked lists, though they're not, they don't store data in the same way as arrays or linked lists. Um, yeah. And then javax.swing. So this kind of like package, it's pretty sure that contains all like the methods. Um, like your standard methods in Java. It doesn't contain arrays or linked lists. Well, no, it contains like all the methods there, but Java collections framework that we know from, from this class, arrays and linked lists are examples of collections. I'm pretty sure in your PowerPoints, it should be in like I think in Laura's PowerPoints, they're like one of the very first slides he posts are is talking about collections. So you could definitely go over that. Um, and yeah. So second question, class IO exception extends from which class?
Oh wait.
So,
Hey,
and
I'm sorry, I'm late. I can take over if you need to, Monica.
okay, yeah, it's all good. We're going over this unofficial doc right now. Um, yeah, it contains a lot of multiple choice questions because Lord's Final is essentially going to be all multiple choice. But again, this is unofficial, everyone. Please keep in mind. And I guess you could take over, William. I'll be like controlling the chat. So if anyone has like any questions, and you don't want to like speak up, again, I'll be monitoring that and answering your questions there. Um, but yeah, okay, William, you could take over if you'd like.
All right. Red screen. Okay. Question two. I think that's what we're up to. So class IO extends from class. The answer is class exception because IO exception it extends from exception. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Let's see the other options. Java Swing. This is not even a class. This is a library. Same with the AWT. And then for part D, class runtime exception, that is another type of exception that also extends from class. So the answer would be A, since this is the parent of IO exception. Question three, a process that is in the ready state. A has terminated B. B has control of the CPU. C is waiting for a turn on the CPU. D is waiting for an IO to be complete. So this is in 212, really? Okay. The answer is C. Waiting for a turn on the CPU. So let's just bring up CPU process states. Let's just see different states. Okay. So CPU threads have different states. You have new, ready, running, waiting, terminated, and it goes through this sort of state transition diagram. So if a process is in the ready state, then it's basically ready. It's ready to be put on the CPU to start executing. And then once it's executing, then it's in the running state. And then it'll switch states based on the code. Like if the process terminates, it'll go terminated. If there's an IO burst or some IO operation, it'll go into the waiting state. And if a new process comes, a new thread starts up, it'll be in the new state. So that's the CPU processes that you'll learn in 340. Question four. And if there's any questions, just leave it in the chat. Question four. What type of Java variables are passed by reference? And so it's D, both objects and primitives. Primitives are passed by reference. Yeah, is that true? Well, I don't think that's true. Well, for objects, of course, they are passed by reference because you can modify the data inside an object if you call it from a function. For example, let's just if I have a function and I take in an object, let's do and by passing this object, animal object, I can modify its value to be dog or something like that. So that's passing by a reference. If it's passed by value, which is in C++, then this would be a copy, and this wouldn't modify the actual object passed in. That's, and I don't think primitives are passed by reference. Professor might be on some stuff. Uh, did the professor talk about that in class?
From Lord's class, he mentioned that primitives were passed by value.
Okay, so then this answer key is wrong.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty sure.
yeah, it should be A. Yeah, so it is passed by value. So if I do a primitive and I set x to equal 5, test 2, I should overload, why not? X equals 10, and I call tests on x. It will be 10. What the f It will be 10, yeah. So you can see the value 5 is assigned to x and it's never used. It's because it's passed by value. The alternative to this would be passing by reference. So if you actually want to modify this, then you could do something like atomic integer, uh, and then x set to 5. And so atomic integer is basically a wrapper class. So then I could do test of y and print y dot get. What's wrong here? That should be, yeah. So this is passed by reference, the reference being to this object, atomic integer. Moving on. Number 5, in model view controller, the model is the data to be displayed, responsible for updating the data, the version of the JVM being used. Absolutely not. The GUI displaying the data. So the answer is A. So let me pull up a diagram. Is good enough? So this is commonly used in like web development, model view controller architecture, where the view is basically the UI. So what's displayed on the website. The controller takes an input from the UI, like buttons, or when you press or you type in stuff and you press like on a button or whatnot. And that makes um, calls to the model, which is the data structure. So the model is the data to be displayed. So after modifying the data, it'll update what is displayed on the UI. Okay, question 6. Which object has the fastest search time? Hash map, road, road map, tree map, sort map. So it should be a hash map. Let me see. Yeah. So hash map, as you'll learn in 323, it is implemented with a hash table. And so when you're r- trying to get a key from the hash map, it's an O of one operation. Roadmap, that that doesn't even exist, I think. Tree map, let's see what the complexity of that is. It's O of n, it's log n. And sort map, is that even a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Yeah, that's not like a real thing. So yeah, the two valid ones are hash map and tree map. And hash map is O of one, tree map is O of log n. I think a tree map uses a heap, right? No, it doesn't. Red block tree. Question 7. Integer and character are an example of should be wrapper classes. So I guess there's like kind of like two definitions of a wrapper class. One is you are turning a primitive, so int w. This is the wrapper version. Now you're what, and the other definition of wrapper class is like atomic integer. So it's actually wrapping a value. So if you can think about a wrapper class is like if I have a private int, I'm wrapping this value, this primitive x into my object, and then I can call get and set, which will modify the wrapped primitive. But in this case, the definition used is the integer version of int, same thing for character. Just character. What else is there? Is there short? Short, byte. These are all wrapper classes. Let me look at the other Unicode character sequences. No, methods can be used to override. That can be used to convert to type float. No. Now, like, why would you, I guess, ever use a wrapper class? Like, why are they used, right? Int and char primitives. Yeah, so primitive, you know if it's a primitive, if it's a lowercase. So int, lowercase I, capital I, it's a wrapper version. And the reason you would use something like this is if you had like if you want a list of integers, you can't do this. You can't do something like this. It has to be, it cannot be of type primitive. So you can see it's telling me to replace it with integer. So that's one example or one use case of why you would use a wrapper class. There are other reasons, but this is, I guess, the main use case. Moving on. Question 8. The largest possible signed positive integer in Java is what? B, right? Yes, B. Well, the answer key says what the two practice finals used to make this guide disagreed on what the choice was between -1 and no. It should be, yeah, -1. Because if I just look in here, of course. Okay, yeah, so the Java doc of integer says a constant holding the maximum value of an int can have 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. That's just something you got to know and memorize. I think there's a chart you can find online for all the max values of numbers in general. Let's see, try to pull one up really quick. Yeah, so int goes from -31 to the power of 31 minus 1. So it's asking for max, right? Yeah, the largest possible signed positive integer. And I believe he gives you something like this in class as well in your notes. Question 9. Oh, what is this? Oh, the answer is question 9. Consider the following statement: int a 2D into 2D int array. The length of a is what? And the length of a of 2 is what? So the length of a is how many rows there are. So like in this initial array, which would be everything separated by everything grouped in brackets, separated by commas. So it would be this is one, two, three. So length of A is 3, and then the length of A2 is what? 2 would be. Let's see if I can this extension. 2 would be, so this is index 0, 1, 2. So 2 is, sorry, the size of this guy is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 3, 4. Okay, so static variables belong to what? And instance variables belong to what? So static variables belong to a class. Instance variables belong to an object. So an example, I guess, if I have a class and I have a static variable, int 6. Static meaning I can reference this static variable by just using the class. So if I do test.max, I can reference it like that. But if I have an instance variable, min equals 10, I can't do test.min. I actually need an object of that class. So I need new test, a new object, and then I can do test.min. So static variables belong to the class, and instance variables belong to the object. Question 11, the runtime stack A only help in the execution of recursive programs. No. B helps keep track of the execution of recursive and non-recursive programs. That looks good. C points out syntax errors in a Java program. D is part of the Java API. So the runtime stack is part of, I'd say, just Java in general. Like as a coding language, you need a runtime stack to keep track of where you are when you're calling methods. So if I have let's say a test method which calls A, and then this A method calls B, and this B method calls C. For example, as a program, if I say if I call test, and let's just say print T. When I'm going into tests, I go first into A, of course. So now if you see like my stack, for example, uh, main function. So my main function calls test and then prints the string T, basically, pseudocode. So this is my stack, my runtime stack. So we're going to the main, we're calling test. So we're going to enter into test, then we're going to call into A. So now I'm calling into A calls B, and then B calls C. And then let's just say C is, that's just, yikes. C is just empty, right? So now we're at this point. C is empty, so we get out of it. We're popping from the stack. So we're done with this method. So we're out of the stack. This is the end of B, so now we pop out of B. So now over here. This is the end of A, so we pop out of A, which is over here. So now we're back at the test function. So now we print T. After we do that, we're done with T, with test, and we're back to the main function. And now we print M. So the stack keeps track of the execution of recursive and non-recursive programs. Basically, where you realistically are in the methods you're calling that are nested or recursive or whatnot. Question 12, hash map and tree maps contain a sequence of French words. Maybe. Integer objects, hash functions, or key value pairs. Okay, French words, it could. Um, Probably not the answer though. Integer objects, hash functions. So the answer is D, because hash map is key and value. So I have X with the value of 10, Y with the value of 5, and they're all distinct. So if I do put Y7, like that, so there's key and value pairs. For a tree map, let me just see how it's implemented. A tree map extends an abstract map. An abstract map is just um, an abstract implementation of a map which has a key value pair. So you can see in the map interface which abstract map implements, it says an object that maps keys to values. So abstract map implements map, tree map extends from abstract map, and the same thing for a hash map. It should extend abstract map. Yeah. So they're both key value pairs since they ultimately implement map interface. Question 13, what is the output of the following code? Override tests, okay. Main int lowercase int numbers, do something, okay. All right. So the output is a compile error because this is not right, but let's just ignore that. So do something numbers in 4. So let's do, I'm gonna just name this F for simple. Actually, it's fine. So we're passing in do something. And these numbers, so let's just do this 369. 15, as well as 4. What happens in here? We have 4 int I, or int j equals 0. J goes to n dot length. So it goes from j equals 0 to the length, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then j plus plus. And we're doing j n at j plus equals I. So let's go through this loop. First j equals 0. So n at 0 plus equals I, which is 4. J plus plus. And now j equals 1. N at 1 plus equals 4. So we're just adding 4 to all the numbers in our int array. So with that in mind, it should be 3 plus 4 is 7, 6 plus 4 is 10, and then so on. Just add 4. And then what else do? We do this part. So this is our int numbers after executing do something. So now what are we doing? We're going to go from k equals 0 to k dot numbers dot length. Same thing over here, basically. So we're going through each element in the array. And what are we doing? We're going to print out numbers at k. So we're just printing out each number. So the answer should be B. Okay. Question 14. What do GUIs do when they are waiting for an action event? They do, they update the module controller. No. Display menu item. That doesn't make sense. Nothing. Executes a continuous wait loop. So they do nothing. Um, Let me actually action center. So if I let me think about the implementation really quick. How did I get here? Oh, I just killed it. So I believe if it's an action event and it's an event bus type thing, then how it's implemented is basically when you add an, an action listener to the menu. So let's just say I have a menu. And this is just speaking in general about the event bus architecture. So let's see this. Let me try to find a good picture if I can. This thing, good enough. So like, how does this work? In the For event buses, you have whatever class you have. So let's just say I have a menu, my menu class, and I want to be able to have subscribers. In this case, that's the same thing as having adding an action event listener, action listener. And then these action listeners have a method that you have to override, action performed. So in my class, I would have a list of these action listeners. And then when I call, let's say menu dot add action listener, yada yada yada, it'll actually add to this internal list. Then I have some way to uh, call all these listeners in my list. So let's say I have an event named, let's see, it's a click event. Yeah, let's do that. A click event. Let's say I have like a fancy menu, and then I just have like some button. When I click this button, I want some code to execute. And so I would have a list of action listeners, and then let's maybe some method click button. Clicking this button will call this method, which will then call all of these listeners to perform the method action performed. So it would be something like, let's just name this list. This is a list, about for each x, and then x dot action performed. So if we connect it to the picture, we have different action listeners being added to this event bus. And then when events come in, it'll call all events on the event bus that are associated with this event that was published. You probably don't need to know that, but it's good to know like how these things work um, underneath the hood. So moving on, the worst. Oh yeah, so it does nothing. The answer, GUIs do nothing until an event occurs. And when an event occurs, it'll call all the action listeners associated with that event. So question 15, the worst case computing time to search for an item in a linked list is should be O of n. So the linked list, my nodes connected via pointers. And then if my item is over here, then the worst time would mean I have to go through each node until I find the last item. And the amount of items I have is n. So the worst case computing time is O of n, meaning my items at the very end of the list. Question 16, a class is A, an instance of a class which has specific properties. B, a template that describes properties and behaviors. C, both of the above. D, neither above. E, ooh, what is that? Slash A subscript to an object which has specific properties. Interesting. What, I don't know, what does that mean? Okay. The answer is B. So yeah, class is just a template that describes properties and behaviors, and then you create instances of that template via an object, creating a new object. Question 17. A method that has a try-catch block is called an exception instigator, handler, propagator, or terminator. It should be handler, because you're handling the exception. These ones don't really make sense. Instigator, what are you instigating, propagating? Yeah, no, it's handler because you're handling the event or the exception. Question 18, consider the following Java class structure. We have a gem class, a diamond that extends gem with a gemstone, and a diamond ring. The statement stone equals ring is an example of what? Stone equals ring. Should be polymorphism. Yes. So it's not casting because casting is just turning from one type to another. So int from like 5.7, 5.5. That's casting. So it's not that instantiation. That's just calling new on something. So I have like int x. Okay, it doesn't have to be new, but x equals 5. So we're instantiating x with the value of 5, indicated by the equal sign. So it's not that. Actually, let me put a pin in that actually. Technically, it's this won't even compile. Like what? Okay. I'm assuming we're doing new gem here. So we already have instantiated objects. Let's just assume this is the case. In this case, it wouldn't be instantiation. It's more like a reassignment. D, type overloading. It's not that. Uh, type overloading is, I think they're referring to method overloading, right? Type, what the hell is type overloading? So type overloading is when I have multiple methods with the same name, but with different parameter types. I can have int x, I can have a string, double. So I overloaded the method called name, and then I can call name on an integer, a string, a double. So that's type or method overloading. So the answer is polymorphism. Um, so polymorphism is basically when you have some class or some interface, let's just say class A, class animal, actually, that's probably better. And I have like a dog. Actually, let me just code it. What am I doing? So I have these two extensions of animal. So now I can have a list of animals. Um, and then I could do dot add new dog or new cat. So the polymorphism is essentially I have dog and cat, which both extend animal, but I can store them in a collection of animal, right? If I want a collection of animals, it could either be dog or cat. If I want a list of dogs, I can't add a new cat because it's type of dog. I can't add a new animal. It has to be type of dog. So this is polymorphism. And the cool thing that you can do now is if I have a method, let's just say do something, subtract. I overwrite it. That's, and then I could do bark, meow. In here, now I can do animals dot for each animal dot do something. And then it will execute based on its overridden method. So let me try to find where that code is. Where's my So I have a collection of animals, and I call for each animal I call it do something. And depending on the type that each animal is, it'll call its respective method for that type. So for dog, it'll call bark. For cat, it'll call meow, which basically is the core of polymorphism. Moving on. The length method in class string returns the number of characters in the string, returns a character at a particular position in the string, instantiates the new string, returns a Boolean determining if the string is empty. So it's just return the number of characters in the string. The length method, pretty self-explanatory. Um, if you want a character at a particular position, you would use a char at, instantiating a new string, just new string, returning Boolean if the string is empty. That would be the is empty method. So the length method returns the number of characters. Question 20, the statement integer.parseInt 123 will convert the number 123 to a float. We're doing integer, so it'll convert it to an int, not a float. Handle an IO exception. It won't, because if we have letters here, it'll actually throw an IO exception or some exception. So it doesn't handle it. That would be a try catch block. That would handle it. Return the number 123 as an int. Yeah, it will do that. And then cause number format exception to be thrown. It will not do that because all of these are numbers. If it was a letter, if there was a letter in here, then it would. Let me just double check that. Okay, okay, it does throw a number format exception. Moving on. Question 21. The constructor of a linked list with head node first and last, should set first and last point to what, and the length to be what? Two different nodes, so the head node should should set the first and last point to two different nodes. It should be same node, each other, a new head node. So yeah, so you're doing a constructor of a linked list with a head node, which will mean that now the first and last point to a new head node, and the length would be 0. Let me just see the implementation. Let's see how this is implemented. Head node, transient. Huh. Yeah, so it starts at empty and it creates a new head node when you call the constructor, essentially. Question 22, variables that should not be changed should be declared using the what modifier? Static, void, Boolean, final. It's final, right? If something is final, it doesn't change. So variables that should not be changed should be declared final. Yeah. 23, a hash map may be implemented using a what and a tree map using a what. So I think I just touched on that before. A hash map is implemented using a hash table, which is basically an indexed array, and the tree map is just implemented using a red-black tree, which is why the it's a log n operation to get from a tree map because it uses this red-black tree. with special properties that make it log n. And then a hash map uses an indexed array. So each key in a hash map has some hash value. So if my hash map is of type string and an int, and I want to pass an x5, this x will have some value. So let's just do this. Some hash value of, let's say, 2. So when I do map.get x, it will first compute the hash value, which is 2, and then it will get it in the index 2. I could have string y, 1 to 10. This might have a hash value of 0. So we do get y, it'll compute the hash value, which is 0, and then return the respective value at that index. Question 24. I'm just getting whatever. What is the output when the programs ran? So our main, we have a bunch of strings. We're going through each string. I see an equal sign, so it's going to be out of bounds somehow. Um, in a try, we do, the answer is integer.parse int items at I. Okay, so let's go through it. So I equals 0. Items at I would be 2, 4, 6, 8. When we do parse int, they're all numbers, so we can do that. So it'll print the answer. The answer is 248. So it's already not this one or this one. Now we're at I equals 1 with the string goodbye. They're not all numbers, so I'll throw an exception will be thrown. That exception is a number format exception. So now it'll print too bad items at I, which is goodbye. So too bad goodbye. So too bad. So answer C. And then we can just stop there. Moving on. What the f Okay. There also exists another question jammed in with 24, so I'll include it as 24.5. Okay. Int, float, and Boolean are examples of wrapper classes, numeric data values, classes of primitives. Should be primitives. The wrapper class value would be integer, float with a capital F, and Boolean with a capital B. It's not numeric data values. I guess Boolean could be 0, 1, but it should be primitives. They're not classes because they're primitives. Yes. Casting is a way to run an application directly out of a jar file. No. Instantiate multiple objects at the same time. No. Can you even do that? Okay. Make one object behave like another. I guess you could say it like that. Declare a class that cannot be instantiated. Declare a class that can, is that even a thing? Declare a class that cannot be instantiated. Is that possible? Let me see. If I have, I think it is possible, right? I can't do new, oh, I can do new dot. Okay, I don't think that's even possible. Make one object behave like another. So, oh, shoot. Where was I? Here we go. So maybe I have, let's say, Oh, an example here. Can I do some casting here? Uh, I think I can. Okay, how about this? We have interface. Let's just say the interface is walk, and it just has a default function that will just print out walk. And then I have dog that implements walk. Only dog, nothing else. So if I have a list of animals and I want to do animal.walk, I can't do that because not all animals implement walk. So I would have to first check if animal, if that's true, then I can do walk.walk. That's actually, let's just, I can cast the animal to walk and then call animal.walk. That's casting, right? So we are making one object behave like another, making it behave like the walk interface. So now if you notice, I no longer have access to the animal methods. So I can do w dot do something that doesn't exist because now it's of type walk. So let's see. Question 26. An array is a what structure and a linked list is a what structure. So an array is a static structure, right? We have an array has a fixed section of memory that's being used, whereas a linked list can point to different parts in memory. That's like that. And then if you think about it, like this is our heap with fixed blocks. Right? If I create an array of size 12 or 13, it'll use this whole contiguous section. So that's 12, 13. But if I have a linked list, I can do something like so. I can use this portion, then have this portion point to this portion point to this some portion, and whatnot. And then the extra space can be used for other stuff in my program. So that's like the benefits of using a linked list over an array. Of course, you're storing this pointer to another memory location, so you will use more memory. Yep. So it is static and dynamic. See. Question 27. The purpose of the buffered reader object is to keep all data in the operating system internal buffer, deliver one line of the input file at a time, convert the ASCII code to Unicode characters, none of the above. So the buffer reader, it is B. So we're reading one line at a time. Let's create a new buffered reader. System.in, is that a thing? Is it a new file reader? Jesus. Oh yeah. Something like this. So we're reading from this file, and then we can do buffered reader dot read. So this method returns a single character, and then we can do what, something with line, right? Read line, reads a line of text. So line by line, character by character. That's the buffered reader. Let's see what it says at the very top. Reads text from a character input stream. Yeah, it's basically the big keynote. Okay, moving on. If a JMenu item in a GUI does not have a handler associated with it, when it is clicked on, A, a JOption message pane will pop up. B, the default close operation will terminate the program. C, nothing will happen. Or D, the default handler from action listener will be executed. So to have a handler associated with it, I believe it means that we did like something like a add action listener, JMenu item, right? So this action listener. So, oh yeah, so we have our listener list, like I said before. And then when some event comes in to my menu, it'll call every item in this listener list, and it'll run this code I put in this Lambda function. If I don't have a handler associated with it, that means this list is empty. So when it goes through each element in the list, there are no elements, so nothing will happen. So let's see. Question 29. When a menu item is clicked on, what is executed? Not A. D, action performed, right? We click, let's see, is there action performed? What is this called? A text field. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Is that the right method? Huh. It's an action standing class. Interesting. Who cares? So yeah, click on an item. It'll call this method. Actually, let's see. Menu item. Let's see what it actually calls. Is there I guess it's all internal now. Process action event. Process action events occurring on this menu item by dispatching them to any registered action listener object, which is our lambdas. So we click, it'll call this process action event, and then it will call our action listener, action performed. Question 30. The statement temp equals new temperature 32.0F is an example of declaring a class. No, that would just be writing public optional static class, yada, yada, yada. Instantiating an object. No, that's this part. The new keyword, model view controller, that makes no sense. None of the above. Oh yeah, no, it is instantiating the object because yeah, we're using the keyword. So new object of temperature class. Abstract classes A do not contain constructors, cannot contain instance variables, are imported from Java Swing, can be instantiated. So it is D. I guess get my example back. So I can't call animals abstract. I can't call new animal. Now I could do this if I do something like that, and then what? Do something. So I guess This isn't instantiating an abstract class. This is more like creating a anonymous class. Um, so yeah, it's D, but you could always do this, and that's useful for if you have something like uh, functional interface. So if you ever implement a functional interface, let's say I think the action performed is a functional interface, right? Action listener, okay. A functional interface is basically an interface which only has one method. It's let's see, has exactly one abstract method. So an action listener is an example of a functional interface, and then you would use it when you do that whole menu. See this add action per listener. So this is basically what we're doing here. We're creating an anonymous class, which is the same as if I did new action listener. So these two are the same. This is a shortcut. Of course, I can replace it with a lambda. So yeah, creating an anonymous class. But the answer is D. They can't actually be instantiated. Menu handlers can pass a reference to their own GUI by using the what operator. Assignment operator, what is that? Equals. That doesn't make sense. Instance of, that's like an operation. You're not really passing anything. This, or casting. Casting, that's not casting. So yeah, passing a reference to their own GUI by using this operator. Yeah. In model view controller, the controller is the data to be displayed. We already said above that was the model. The GUI displaying the data, that'd be the view. Responsible for updating the data, is indeed the controller. So let's see. Just, oh, it's I still have it. Nice. The controller manipulates the model, which then updates what's displayed. Hmm. Okay, which code can represent most characters? Most characters, that would be, I guess, the highest bit, so 16-bit Unicode. Is there anything higher than that? What's my encoding on this? Let's see, I'm using UTF-8, UTF-16. Yeah, so 16-bit Unicode is the highest. There could be higher, but why would you? Yeah. Question 35. What would be an appropriate regular expression to match a social security number? So what is it even the format of social security number? Let me see. Social security number is formatted like this, XXXX dash XX, four more. So we have four, we have two, and four. Oh, no, that's three, actually. That's, where's my, yeah. So three, two, four. Yeah, see, 324. That's a rectangle. That's huge. Okay. Oh, let's see. The difference between C and D. So I don't really want to get to regexes, but So where this matches the digits of length what's inside the brackets. So we want to match three digits, then have a dash, then match digits, then have a dash, then match four digits. This, I don't even think that works, compiles at all. Actually, let's test it out really quick because I'm curious. So X101. Yeah, I have no clue what this does. Well, we can do something like this, which that matches. And then let's see. Yeah, match. Oh, what contains a what, which contains a what. So, menu bar, menu item, menu bar, okay. It should be a menu bar contains a menu, and in that menu it has multiple items. So yeah, see. I wonder if there's a good diagram. Try to find one really quick. J menu bar. J menu. Okay, wait, whatever. A process that is in the run state is what? Waiting for an IO to be complete, waiting for it to run the CPU, has terminated or has control of the CPU. So if it's running, that means it has control of the CPU. I mentioned it before. Waiting for an IO would be the wait state, I believe. Let's see. CPU states. Let's pull up that diagram again. Jesus. Okay, yeah, the waiting state, waiting for a turn on the CPU would be new or no, it should be ready. Terminated is terminated, and running is has control of the CPU. The Java compiler processes code contained in what files? It should be a Java file. It's not CPP because that's just a different language. It's not a text file, so it's either a Java file or a class file. Um, and it is a Java file, which then gets turned into a class file. So it compiles it into a class file. And the class file is the Java compiled bytecode. And the Java file is a source code. The source code gets compiled into a class file. 39. Characters by default are represented in Java using. There's only one choice, so I'm just gonna make three more. Should be what, 8-bit Unicode, right? 16-bit Unicode. I think this is just something you just have to know. Just you have to know. Let's see. That's true. Hmm. So yeah, it does use 16-bit Unicode values. Let's see if the character class actually says anything about that. Oh, I think it does. Unicode character representation. Used for 16-bit char at UTF-16 coding. 16. The Java platform uses the UTF-16 representation in char arrays. So yeah, 16-bit Unicode. The Java virtual machine processes code contained in what files? Should be the class files, so C. Remember, we have the Java files. This is our source code, which then gets compiled into class files, which then the JVM processes. Question 40, what will be the output of this program segment? Putting up P of 1, so 0, 1, 2, 3, that's our indexes. 1 is 4, so it's just B. Or a number of questions past 40, most of these are on the Quizlet flashcards. While the right answer is consistent, some wrong choices are my own interpretation. Uh-oh. Okay. 41, an object is an instance of a class. A template describes. Okay, so this is a class. This is an object. So it's just A. Question 42. And also, if any you guys have questions, feel free to let them know. Type in the chat, whatnot. Um, but question 42. Didn't we just do this? Okay. Pet one equals new cat. So we're doing an instantiation. So that should be B. New keyword equals. In Java, object parameters are passed by what, and primitives are passed by what? Parameters are passed by reference, and primitives are passed by value. So it's A. But apparently, Lord says you pass primitives by value reference, which is no way. Let me Google this. Some technicality or something. There's no way. Primitives are always passed by value. Okay, now I'm seeing everything is passed by value. Okay, pretty. No, there's no. How is he? What does he say? That means it's passed by reference for primitives. No shot. So I want to pull up his slides. It should be passed by value for primitives, though, based on my understanding. Moving on. There might be some like technicality that I don't know of, but yeah. Okay, 44. An empty GUI with a menu bar saying social security numbers. The above diagram could be the result of instantiating a what? The di well, no, it's Quizlet. This invisible diagram, is it shown anywhere? Empty GUI with a menu bar. So I guess you have to instantiate a JFrame. You don't really instantiate a social security number. It could be objects. Yeah, we don't have the diagram, so whatever. It's JFrame since we have a GUI with a menu bar. 40. Okay. The following code is intended to add a new node at the beginning of a linked list with dummy head node declared as follows. Choose the best answer to complete the code. The with a what? What's the question here? What is going on here? What? Oh, 45. Okay, so what's in here, I guess? New list node. What is it like? Parentheses, my data? Is that right? That's in 45. In 46, this would be and dot next equals. Okay, so we're prepending, which means we're taking, if this is our head right now, we want to prepend this guy. That becomes a new head, essentially. So n is our new list node. So this is n dot next. Oh, but there's a dummy head node. So actually, dummy head. And this is like the first value, I guess. I guess. Or our head. But this is actually first. So this thing refers to this guy. So when we're prepending something, we want to make it like this. So just get rid of that. So this is n. So in order to point it to make the first point to our new node, and our new node point to our head. Our head is basically first dot next. So 46 would be first dot next. 47. And so first dot next equals n. N dot next. This guy dot next is this. So that's this part. Now first dot next. So first dot next equals n. So that's this part. So length plus plus. If last equals first, then if last equals first, that means we only have one dummy node. Last equals first. In that case, when we're prepending, it should point to our new guy, which is n. So now this is first. Before it was this. Now we want to make last equal to n. So 47 would be last. Yeah. 48. What is printed when the main program runs? So the main program is this part. So we have new A of 2. We call A of 2. What happens? Go to here. So A equals 2. B equals 3. So we print out A is 2, B is 3. A is 2, B is 3. So it's just this off the rip. That's the answer. It's done. The methods A and are these continuing? The methods A and B are called what? Oh, these two methods? They're constructors. So yeah. Voidless methods in voidless. Yeah, they're constructors. The variable B is accessible to who? B is in here. It's protected. So it's accessible to A and whoever extends A. In this case, B extends A. So it's A and B. Enter C. What would be an appropriate expression to match a telephone? Telephone, same thing like social security number is 3 digits by 3 digits by 4. So D3, D3, D4. A menu listener implements the interface. It has to be either B or C. These are just methods. So it implements the listener interface because it's a menu listener. It just makes sense. Activate listener. Okay, interesting. Yeah, whatever. It's an action listener. This guy. When you want items to come out in a sorted order, it's best to use hash map, tree map, sort map, or none. So hash map is for distinct key value pairs. So no, nothing to do with sorting. But tree map does sorts natively using its red black tree implementation. A sort map doesn't even exist. Sort sort map, sorted map. I think a tree map implements this actually. Let me see. No, I guess not. Let's see what. Oh, it does. Okay, it implements a navigable navigable map, which extends sort map. So a tree map does extend sorted map. Navig navigable? Oh my God. Class runtime exception extends from class. Well, it's an exception, so it extends from the exception class. Right? Did I just scroll back? Deja vu. These two are libraries, and this is a different exception. Yeah, so this one extends from the parent, which is class exception. Method that can handle an exception is called an exception propagator. Let's see. I guess because you're propagating the exception instead of actually handling it. So it's basically passed up the call stack. For example, if I have this thing can throw an exception. So this doesn't actually handle the exception in itself, in its method. If it did, then we would have a try catch. So this method is an exception propagator because it doesn't actually handle the exception in its method. It'll pass it back up to whatever method calls it. So test, I now need to implement this because this method might throw that exception. It propagates it back up to wherever it is called. Now I can remove this one and then handle it here as well, like so. A recursive definition of an array being in sort order is if first two elements are in order, the rest of the array is sorted, then the entire array is sorted. Select the missing parts of the following algorithm to complete the code. What? What algorithm? Uh, this thing? Okay. Was that right? Different question. Okay. It's sorted. So if I equals the length of negative the last element to return true. If my array of I is less than 56. Okay, it's what references it. This should be what? If it's less than Okay, so we're trying to determine if the array is sorted. So if I'm given an array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this will return true because this guy is greater than this guy. Or I should say, this guy is less than the one after. This guy is less than the one after. This guy is less than the one after, and so on. So when we're checking if it's sorted, we check if this guy is less than the guy after. So 56 would be D. So array at I is less than array at I plus 1. 57, we would it would be so I is our current index. It points to here. So once we know this is true, we want to check if the next group. So we do I plus 1. So it should point to here. So it should be B. 58, a menu handler, i.e. action performed, takes a parameter of type. This is not even a type, so it's not this. So it could be these two or none. The type is action event. So let's see the action performed. Was that a thing? Menu handler. Action performed. Okay, it's basically talking about this. So handler, the action performed method, i.e. action performed, takes a parameter of type action event. So let's see. One format of a car license plate is 3 letters followed by 3 digits, which would be an appropriate regular expression to match that. 3 letters and 3 digits. So it should be C. These represent letters, and 3 means 3 of those. So we have 3 letters, and then we have 3 digits. This right here, if we do this, then we're actually matching the brackets. So that's invalid. So that's C and D, not good. A, we're matching 1 letter, 3 digits, and then 1 letter, which is not that. So let's see. Euclid algorithm finding the greatest common divisor says that given two natural numbers, A and B, check if B is 0. If yes, return A, GCD. If not, repeat the process using B and the remainder after dividing A by B. Okay, so check if B equals is 0. So 60 is B, right? We're checking if B equals 0, this part. So 60 is B. Oh, so you were doing A and B here, so it's actually D. And then for this part, it says repeat the process using B and the remainder after dividing A by B. The remainder, so we're using modulo, dividing A by B. So it's what? That's A and B, so it's N mod D dividing A by B and getting the remainder, which is modulo. Yeah, that's the answer. Java is a great language. True. Very true. Data is to be displayed is stored in the reversal of 5. Data that is to be displayed is stored in the reversal of 5. Is that like some term I don't know? Wait, reversal of 5? What? Okay, I think it just cuts off here. Data that is to be displayed is stored in the MBC. That should be the model. Model. Data. View. UI, controller, logic. The component responsible for updating the data is the controller. It manipulates the model, which updates what is displayed in the view. A scanner object can be used to keep all data in the operating system's internal buffer, deliver one line of the input at a time, convert ASCII to Unicode, none of the above. It is deliver one line at a time. Yeah. So what is the scanner exactly? Let's see if the docs say anything. Simple text scanner that can parse primitive types and strings. Blah, blah, blah. This code allows the user to read a number from system.in. Oh yeah, of course. So I could do scanner dot next, which could be next string, next line, the whole next line, yada yada yada. Brightspace quiz update. Okay. Exceptions are classes, object, primitives, or methods. Objects, right? Double check. Yeah, objects. When I'm throwing a new exception, I'm actually throwing a new, I'm using the word new keyword, so it's a new object. So exceptions are objects. Assertions are used during what, and exceptions are used during what. Assertions are used during program execution or program development. It could be both. Uh, that's a bad question, I'd say. But usually it's for program development. You're asserting something is true. Um, and then exceptions are used during execution. They're runtime based, so it's during execution. So the answer is C. How does a scanner differ from the buffer reader? It's a good question. So they both read input, um, but as a scanner says, it will parse using regular expressions. And I think, let me do, let's get the scanner back. Do I still have my note? New buffered reader reads text from a character input stream, or the scanner parse primitive types and strings using regular expressions. So I don't think I do buffer reader dot read. It'll read a line, read a character. What else can it do? That's basically it. Whereas a scanner, I can get the next int, next byte, next float. So it can directly read different data types. So it's easier to use, so you have to type, and it has a built-in parsing with the regex. And for buffered reader, it also goes line by line, but usually it's for reading like raw text, massive amounts of raw text very efficiently. So yeah, efficient reading of character arrays and lines. But of course, then you need to do your own casting and whatever if you are looking for numbers or ints instead of scanner dot next int, next long, yada yada yada. Question 68, if variable y is declared as an instance variable in a class file as follows, float y, what is the default value of y? It's a float, so it should be b. This is an integer, this is a double, f means float. It's not null because it is a primitive. If it was a capital F, the wrapper class floats, then it would be null. Right. Can I do that? No, right. Not initialized because it's null. Something like that. Okay. Oh yeah, I have to initialize it to something. But if it was an instant variable, I wouldn't have to initialize it directly. So the default variable C, the variable C is declared as an instance variable in a class of all char C with the default value of C. The default value of a character is what? It's not null, primitive. It's not A because that's just it's a random. Is it 0? I don't think so. Let's just see defaults char value in Java. It is a null character, which is this guy. Yeah, so that's a null character, which is different from the null keyword itself. And yeah, as a reminder, guys, please fill out the feedback form, attendance form, and whatnot. Give your feedback and comments, and help us keep doing these in the future. Question 70, what method is contained in the class text input file? Okay, that's just like, if you know, you know, I guess. Yeah, same thing exists. The answer is what? Readline? Is that where is this even from, bro? What? Text input file. What? What is this? Okay, it's a readline. No comment on that one. In the statement, int p equals that. The length of p is what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Length is 4. Simple. Statement x indicates A is a variable x that contains reference to an array object which contains integers. There's a variable x which is an integer. It's not an integer because it's an array. There's a constructor x, which is part of a class. No. There's a variable x, which is a null reference. So the answer is A. I don't think this can have a null reference, right? You can't do that. Oh, I guess you can. Oh well. Hmm. Yeah, it's A. Int array, reference to an array object. The length of an array may be changed at any point using length plus plus. No, because arrays are immutable. Will vary based on how many elements exist within it. Within it, that's no, because it's a fixed size. Can be changed once it's declared. That's true. Immutable, fixed size. 74, the length of an array is established when the JVM runs the program, when the compiler compiles the program, when the array is created, whenever the length variable is updated. Remember, you can't update the variable length. It's fixed size. It should be whenever the array is created, right? It is dynamic. If I do a new int array, it'll be whenever I call that new int array in my code during execution. An array is a container object that holds a fixed number of integers, number of values, multiple types. So an array can only have one type, unless you have a list of objects. That's different. We're doing arrays, right? Only one type. Uh, an object that holds reference to objects. That's just not true. A container object that holds a fixed number of values in a single type. That should be true. It should be D. Yeah. Someone's asking to record the video. This thing will be posted on the Learning Commons YouTube channel, which we posted on the Code for All Discord channel for 212 once it's uploaded. Can we get this doc? This doc is, I was told, was not meant to be shared. So, but I guess clearly a lot of animals in here already. So I guess I'll just post this thing. Aren't arrays pointers slash are pointers objects? Aren't arrays pointers? I mean, you could, I think in C++ or C, yeah, damn it. You could think of it like that. It's a pointer to the start of the array. And are pointers objects? Are pointers objects? Pointers are just they just point to a section in memory. An object is an instance of a class. So they're kind of like two different things that you're trying to compare. Moving on. If the variable s is declared as an instance variable in a class as follows. Oh my God. Um, sorry, one sec. Uh, the default value of s is what? I think it's null. Let me see. Yeah, it's null. This is for characters. That's for integers. That is for nothing. It's null because this is a wrapper, or not even a wrapper. It's just an object. Default object variable or value is null. In the Java programming language, all source code is written in plain text file ending with what extension? Java file, right? Look at all these .java files here. Source code right there. What is the correct command to run the class hello world.class? Either B or C. It is B. Uh, I assume the C just means compile, right? Something like that. Java C is the Java compiler, which translates Java files into class files. And then Java command is the application launcher, which starts a VM and executes this compiled by code, this class file. What is the correct way to instantiate a new text file input object? Bro, this does not exist. What? That's not a thing. It should be static. That no, you need some equals sign when you're doing an instantiation. This won't even compile. New, that's just like inverted. This is so it's D, right? Type variable name equals new type constructor. A variable that will contain an integer with value no greater than this would be best stored in what type? It should be a short because that is the max value of a short. Let me just double check. Oh, 323767. Yeah, short. What is not an integer format? Bro, what? This C++ plus or int, float, long, unsigned, long, long. It is float. This is a floating point format. These are all integers. The primitive type short is stored using how many bits? Uh, so it's this the value. So if we do what? The log 2 of that. So log base 2 let's just pop this in 767 16. Maybe that's not log. It's 16. 2 to the power of 16 is somewhere close to that, close enough. The primitive type int is stored using how many bits? Int would be, well, it's more than a short, so it has to be 32, right? So it's 32. Quickness signature, so public static void main args, public static void main string args, so it's A. What is the main name of the method that runs first? It's main, lowercase m. Does that matter? Oh, it does matter. Wow. Okay. What is an illegal comment? This guy, right? Oh, wait. Should be this guy, right? A block comment is what, slash star? Yeah. So this star over here is actually part of the comment. There's no slash star at the end, so invalid. The compiler ignores everything to the end of the line starting from this bad boy. This indicates a documentation comment. The compiler ignores this kind of comments just like it ignores any other comment. Like we discussed before, slash star. What the, is this green? Okay, slash star star. Oh, it should be this. Should we see? Just, just double check. Okay, so documentation comments begins with slash star star and ends with star slash. So it's actually none of them. Ooh, okay, this thing sucks. This is the answer. So slash star star text star slash. The compiler ignores everything from slash to what even is this question asking? From slash to what? From slash to slash? I guess a slash to slash, assuming you have these stars in between. Yeah. What is the correct command to run file.java? So Java file, we want to compile it. So we use the C, compile, right? Compile Java, Java with a C. Hello world. Should be D. Oh, to run the file. Wait, what? C. S- Let's ask the Godfather. The correct command is actually B. Oops. But like, assuming you compile it first. Okay, that's just so this is missing a .java at the end. So you compile and then you run the class file. If a Java class is declared as public, class hello world, then the name of the file is stored. The name of the file it's stored in must be hello world.class .java. C. Has to match the name of the file class. Yeah. And here you could have your own inner static classes, but the main class has to match the name of the file. If the Java try me class is run using the following command, Java try me 123. What is the argument? Content argument of args1. So 1, 2 should be 2, right? First argument, second argument, third argument. Arg1 is this guy, so it's 2. What is not a Java development tool? Git, right? What? Oh yeah, wrapping up. Let's see what time it is. 9 o'clock. Well, these are kind of good questions though. Let's just get to 100, eh? The class string equals dot class is run using this. What statement is true? Okay, let's doing this right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 equals 2. That's true. So what? It's A. Yep. If the Java class try me is run using the following program, what is the length of array at args, right? Just 1, 2, 3 arguments, so the length is 3. What extension of a file produced from source code by the Java compiler? That'd be a class file, right? Source code, Java compiler, output, a class file. What are the contents of a class file? Should be the byte code. Java class files must be run by the JVM. What are the two main components of the Java language? The the virtual machine and the API. My God, there's so many questions. Okay, last question. The Java Application Programming Interface, the API, is what? A large collection of ready-made soft components, a library for Java, a software which the JVM implements, a software that allows the users to view the program as it runs. It is a large collection of ready-made software components. All these libraries are from the Java API, I think. It should be. Yes. So, Java base, all these ready-made software components. That's gonna probably wrap up this session. Don't forget to fill out the form. This recording will be posted on Learning Commons YouTube channel very soon. Any questions? Any last minute questions?
Yeah, also, the recording, it should be posted by Monday. Um, if not, as soon as possible. Again, not entirely sure when your final is going to be, but be on the lookout for this recording.
All right, if there's no questions, we're gonna stop here.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.